We design a kitchen with equipment that's very versatile, that can cook different types of foods. You can do different things in there. So you can't be afraid of change. But your food and beverage is an anchor attraction.
This is the Box Office Podcast. I'm Daniel Luria, the editorial director of Box Office Pro, the pulse of theatrical exhibition. And in this week's episode, Rebecca Pauley interviews Michael Giacinto of Proctor Companies about everything having to do with the design of a dine-in auditorium. There's a lot of great lessons forged from experience that Proctor Company has developed here in the dine-in community. And of course, it is a dine-in themed episode because this week over in Austin, Texas, I'm here already for the 2026 Dine-In Cinema Summit. I'm excited to have this kick off. By the time you listen to this, things will be wrapping up already. Joining us here on our news panel, once again, my colleagues and co-hosts, Rebecca Pauley and Chad Kenner from Box Office Pro. Guys, welcome back. I understand you both saw the number one movie in the country last weekend, Sam Raimi's Send Help. Let's start with you, Chad. What did you think of the movie?
It's Sam Raimi doing what he does best. We talked last week that we hadn't seen him in the horror mode on the big screen since Drag Me to Hell. I thought it was refreshing. I liked seeing Rachel McAdams in a leading role. I feel like she's such an underrated actor. And all of the shades that she plays as this character, I was just in it for her performance.
Yeah, they were both great. I like the two lead actors. Yeah, definitely very Sam Raimi-esque. A lot of blood, a lot of zooms, a lot of POV cam sort of stuff. I just felt like it was a little toothless for me. Like it could have been meaner. I wish it had been a little more. Just a little. I wish it had been sharper. But that said, like I didn't dislike it. And I had a group of friends went to go see it. Had some nice conversations about movie posters. I'm trying to convince Eric to go with me to see the Elvis IMAX doc when it comes out, which he has no interest in.
So tell me a little bit about this Elvis IMAX documentary. Is it concert footage? Is it a concert film? Is it just like the Moon Age Daydream equivalent for Elvis and it's IMAX exclusive? What's the deal?
So that's the impression it got. It was like Moon Age Daydream, where in the process of doing research for the Elvis biopic, Baz Luhrmann came across quote unquote new old footage from Elvis performing in Vegas. So that was remastered, put together with. But honestly, after seeing the trailer when we went and saw Primate, I was like, I gotta go. I gotta see this. I just love seeing a music doc or concert film or something like that on the big screen, full sound, full big picture.
I mean, these music docs, it depends, right? I think the Elvis documentary certainly has some potential. And I just love the fact that they're coming in and scheduling these sort of productions when there's gaps in the schedule, man. I mean, that's really what we need in this industry. And going back real quick to Send Help, I haven't seen it yet. Rachel McAdams, who stars in this film, in my opinion, is maybe the most underrated comedic actress of our generation. Her work in obviously Mean Girls, I think, is seminal for people our age. And I can't forget, she was really good in Game Night. Did you guys see that comedy?
Oh, Game Night was so under. Yeah, I can't.
She's amazing in it. She's so good in that.
I quote, like, how can that be profitable for Frito-Lay? All the time.
I really love that movie. I saw that at the Regal Times Square years ago, back when it first came out. And Rachel McAdams just delivers in that movie. So I'm glad these movies are coming out.
Yeah, she delivers in this too. And I think the thing I really appreciated about it is that it's very much a crowd movie. The crowd that I was with had a great time watching it. And I think you feed off of that when you get to see a film that creates all of the kind of how, and the way that Housemaid had a lot of gasps. I experienced that with Send Help too.
Yeah, it was a good crowd film, like the kind of the melodrama of it, the shifting relationship. It was very soap opera-esque, sort of, in the heightened drama of it all. So yeah, it definitely worked with the crowd better than if I just seen it at home.
Well, it was a great number one opening for Send Help this weekend with a $20 million debut. That's above the pre-release expectations we had for the title. In fact, all three top films in North America overperformed their top line expectations here at the box office. Following Send Help, in second place, we had Iron Lung from YouTuber Markiplier, independently produced and distributed title that ends up in second place with 17.8 million, a fantastic figure for that title. And I don't know if you guys saw this, but the pre-sales for this title had been huge. We had been hearing that this was going to be a sleeper hit for weeks now, and there was real anticipation from Gen Z audiences to go out and support it. Our friends at the Shankweiler's Drive-In in Pennsylvania, here in the Northeast, got completely snowed in, like the rest of the region. Their entire parking lot to see the film was unusable because it was just caked in snow and ice. And they had all these pre-sales ready to go for Iron Lung. And you can imagine a traditionally seasonal business like a drive-in, especially in the Northeast, they needed to have this on. Come on, this was going to be a great weekend for them. Weather didn't work out. So they put out a call to action on social media for their community. Show up with a shovel and help us put this screening together on opening weekend. And the community turned out, guys. Markiplier himself sent pizza. And between a bunch of volunteers that just like the theater, they dug out enough space for that opening weekend to be successful for them. A wonderful grassroots effort from our friends over at Shankweiler's.
Didn't Lauren McChesney, who co-runs Shank, didn't she got married like there?
Yeah.
Yeah, they like had a surprise wedding. It's really nice to see, the passion that people have into the have for the industry coming into it. I've also, one of my favorite things about Iron Lung, I don't really, I'm not familiar with Markiplier. I'm not, in that world really, but they collaborated with Regal on, a popcorn bucket, of course. But what I also read is that Markiplier released the 3D printing specs for the popcorn bucket. And if you printed your own and brought it in, you would get free popcorn, which I really like that.
I like that. I like that idea a lot. A lot of cool things happening over at Regal with programming, let's say, off the beaten path productions or productions not coming from traditional studios. The Regal programming team this year has been on it.
They're really, yeah. Actually, that came up in conversation. All that fun stuff coming up at Regal. I was like, if Eric comes with me to see the Elvis doc, I'll go with him to see Titanic when it screens as part of their month-long romance movie series that they have going on.
And of course, as we talk about movies and special screenings coming up, Chad, there's an announcement here for fans like we are of the Scream franchise. There's going to be special fan screenings of Scream 7 coming up soon.
Yeah, Paramount Pictures announced a Scream 7 opening night fan event. That will be held on Thursday, February 26th at 6 p.m. local time, in part to celebrate the new film, but also to celebrate the 30th anniversary of Scream, which makes me feel hella old.
It makes you feel better. We were too young to watch it in theaters.
Yes.
We had to get the videotape rented by the older sibling into the sleepover party on VHS. That's how we saw it. And by the way, to our listeners, we're going to have a complete rewind and rewatch of the entire Scream franchise on our podcast on the Thursday before the release of the newest sequel coming out from Paramount in the last weekend of February. So right now, Chad, Rebecca, and I are knee deep in Scream movie lore.
Ghostface masks left, right, center. So many Ghostface.
A lot of research going into that one. Yeah, but I'm excited to hear your thoughts on this.
It sounds like it would be a better event than the fan screening of Stab that started Scream 2.
Right.
That
No. The meta elements of that franchise is probably what I like the most now that we're 30 plus years into that thing. Man, 30 plus years. Scary.
Yeah.
Scary to think about.
So in addition to the regular theatrical engagements, they're also doing screenings in IMAX, Dolby Cinema, 4DX, ScreenX, exhibitors proprietary, premium large formats. And they're going to have some special content curated for that event. We don't know exactly what yet, but fans will also receive a limited edition collector's print commemorating the anniversary of Scream.
Yeah, a good event to maybe skip the bathroom when it
Yes.
starts.
And if you hear
Go to the
somebody
bathroom
like,
afterwards,
hear something
not
in
during.
the next stall, just ignore it.
Right.
Just
Yeah,
leave.
don't worry about it. Yeah, no, we don't want any of that. Talking about box office, we've also got a surprise number 3 finish here from last weekend with Melania, the documentary on the First Lady, finishing with a $7 million take. Really, we can't say anything other than completely beating expectations here, which were modest going into things. And I have to be upfront, guys. We do a lot of media appearances. We talk to a lot of press outlets here at Box Office Pro. This might be the movie I've spoken to the press the most about.
People are definitely curious about it. I mean,
I think there's a lot of morbid curiosity out there. And to be perfectly honest, and I can sniff these out, there were a lot of pre-written headlines about what the performance could or would mean that, we tried our best here to tamper down expectations. I mean, beyond anything about this movie, our role here is to inform exhibitors what to expect on any given weekend. We're here to tell people, hey, maybe staff up these auditoriums, we help them with programming. We're not here to dole out political opinions. Yeah, and like Showtime market share. We're really nothing beyond that in what we do. So I was a little bit surprised with maybe some of the angles I was getting by some of these outlets about this title. And, I'd say that regardless of the title. The same thing happened with Sydney Sweeney's movie, The Housemaid, where I was getting some phone calls wanting to put a certain light on that title. And I just warned everyone, hey, guys, this is a female skewing film in a time when this demographic is underrepresented. This is a best-selling novel. It might surprise beyond opening weekend. What happens? It's surprised. And with Melania, I was saying the same thing. You know what? I know there's a lot of, heated opinions around this right now. We are talking about a precedent that won the popular vote last time around that has people that very divisive precedent. People either love them or hate them. Does that extend to Melania or not? I don't know. But at the end of the day, this is a documentary released in around 1,700 screens in January. No one's expecting Jurassic World grosses here. And $7 million for any political documentary released in 1,700 screens at the end of January is a massive overperformance. And I don't see any evidence here of what the press calls astroturfing, of people buying phantom tickets or like doing private. No, that didn't happen here. As far as we can tell, exhibitors were scrambling to add showtimes to reflect the demand. And the demand, if you see the demographics, the markets where this theater performed well in, it coincides directly with the electoral map. So let's not read into things where there's nothing to read into. This is a documentary that's probably going to be a streaming play for Amazon MGM in a couple of weeks, to be perfectly honest, that made $7 million and finished third place opening weekend. I don't think there's much more to discuss beyond that about the film itself. Of course, what that means about the country, etc. That's not for us to talk about. And I just I wish we treated other documentaries the way we treated this one. Can you imagine the industry we'd have if everything got a quarter of the spotlight that this film got?
I just don't know if I'm seeing any Brett Ratner movie in 2026.
Yeah, I mean, his career's back up and running. A visit to the White House and the documentary later, Rush Hour 4 looks to be on track. I've never been the biggest fan of his films.
Yeah.
Just never.
I'm a Roland Emmerich girl.
Yeah. I skipped the documentary. I will say this about the U.S. because I am in Mexico. We have a healthy dose of cynicism and maybe contempt for all our politicians. I am surprised by how much. Hagiography might not be too harsh a word here. It might be apt, but there's a lot of friendly documentaries on political figures on both sides. I mean, obviously the Melania one isn't going to be hard hitting.
I mean, it's access journalism, right?
There's a market for that. I don't get it, but on a slow weekend in January, we'll take it. We absolutely will take it. And it overperformed. I'm not sure it's going to stick around for week 2, just because these sort of titles usually lose steam after the first week. And honestly, the question here is opening weekend for Melania going to be a show of force and a saving face for the presidential administration by their fans? That might be the case. But then week 2 is strictly, is the movie any good? And I'm not sure that there's going to be let's say, the same sort of drive to watch this or to support this title in week two, the way that not many documentaries tend to have that. Usually it's the inverse. Documentaries start slow and gain momentum. And when it's the other way around,
This
the
is going to
drop
be more
off.
like an anime title, like more like one of those like very fan driven.
Yeah, it's like a fan-driven anime movie. Like that's really the demand I anticipate. Films that are embraced by a part of the political spectrum, I would say they tend to have legs sometimes, so that could happen. But it's hard to know where this movie is going to go, beyond opening weekend. And this coming weekend is unfortunately going to be a slow one, as we only have two wide releases joining the fray. From Angel Studios, Solo Mio, starring Kevin James as a man who is stood up at the altar and then goes on a honeymoon by himself.
Non-refundable deposits. Do what you got to do.
Yeah, I'd go on that. I'd definitely take that trip.
I don't know, man. I think I'd end up like crying in hotel rooms all over Italy. I don't think it would be a very funny movie if I was in it. Horribly depressing. $4 to $7 million opening weekend range for that title. Probably going to end up, let's say, top 3 to top 5, depending on where other holdovers land. And then from Lionsgate, we've got the third part of the Strangers prequel trilogy that is currently tracking between $5 to $8 million opening weekend here in the US. While in the UK, our partners over at Pearl and Dean are forecasting an opening weekend in the UK and Ireland between £200,000 and £350,000 for a total theatrical forecast around £500,000 on the low end and £800,000 on the high end for that title. So a bit of a whimper here for the Lionsgate Strangers prequel trilogy, but I think it's one of those titles that I like the commitment that the studio made on getting an IP like this, giving a filmmaker 3 goes at it and see what happens. I have a feeling this might live on in the horror community. Is that fair to say, Rebecca? A box office underperformance doesn't always dictate what gets remembered in the horror genre.
For horror genres, box office underperformance, yes, definitely sometimes that's a badge of honor.
Right, it's a plus.
I saw it when nobody else did, or this was so underappreciated and it's time. So yeah, that's definitely not a badge of shame. I haven't heard much about the film either way. There's definitely, I'm not hearing as much as I was for like Primate, and people were talking about that more, but yeah, could live on.
It's been a big month for, at this point, a big Q1 for horror so far.
The Oscar nominations, yep.
And, to see Send Help right now being the best horror opener with $20 million in its opening weekend, I think that speaks to the underperformance of Sony's 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple, which with an established IP, a movie that just came out last summer, and last summer to a $30 million opening weekend, you really expected something more. But, Send Help actually comes in, offers something original for audiences, ends up being a good crowd movie. And, we're off to the races with that. That wraps up our forecasting segment here on the podcast. Coming up, Rebecca speaks with Michael Jacinto of the Proctor Company, going over design on the Dine-In auditorium world. A fascinating conversation going over the nuts and bolts of the exhibition industry. And I do have to hype this up because by the time our listeners get their ears on this episode, the first ever Dine-In Cinema Cook-Off Challenge would have already taken place down here in Austin, Texas. Happened this week on Wednesday. In future tense as I record this, but in the past tense as you listen to it, down at the Alamo Lakeline, I hosted 5 of the country's leading dine-in cinema chains. That is Hookie, Cinepolis, Alamo Draft House, Film Alley, and Flix Brew House. They all put forward some of their most unique menu items against a tasting table of judges to figure out who had some of the best dine-in menu items in the country right now. We will go into those results in next weekend's episode because right now we got to go right into that interview with Rebecca. That is coming up after the break.
Proctor Companies partnered with Alamo Drafthouse for a total renovation of their Mountain View, California location, which is featured on the cover of Box Office Pro's Dine-In issue. Proctor designed and built the bar, guest services counter, and server stations, and completely re-outfitted Alamo's kitchen for volume and efficiency to meet the demands of their in-theater dining business model. To see more Proctor projects, visit proctorco.com/projects.
And I am here with Michael Giacinto of Proctor in Theater Dining. Michael, how are you doing today? We're recording this before the Dine-In Cinema Summit, but by the time this episode airs, you will be on the ground there.
Right, absolutely. Thank you for having me. I'm doing wonderful. I always appreciate the opportunity to connect with you guys and talk a little bit about, especially about what Dine-In brings, or at this point in time, what it will have brung to us, and some of the things that we're excited for that we know that we're going to see.
I'm super excited to pick your brain about the way that space is evolving. If you're at the Dine-In Cinema Summit, we have the copies of Box Office. The February issue that we have there has Proctor on the cover with the new Alamo Drafthouse in Mountain View, California. That was the bar area. What was your work on that? Because it looks gorgeous.
We were so blessed. So that location prior was a Karasotis Icon Theater. And we did something, well, at least we think we did something special there, because when we did Mountain View, 30 minutes away, they also took over the Icon Theater in Valley Fair. So we did double duty, and we refreshed both of those theaters in the kitchen, in their server stations, in the bar, and also adding in small pieces for their box office or guest services counter. Not quite a box office in the way that we used to think about it, but there are still a few box offices around, but it's their guest services counter. So we got to double up, and what we did in one space, we were able to do in another. We feel like that really made it really cost effective for them in taking over both theaters.
So I know you're doing a presentation at the Dine-In Cinema Summit. I don't want you to give the whole things away, but for those of us who can't be there, can you tell us a little bit about what you'll be talking about?
I'm really excited to really get the chance to delve in on that presentation of why quality matters and why pinching pennies costs dollars. I think that everybody kind of knows that phrase, stepping over dollars to pick up pennies. And it's for us going to be, it's for me a little bit of a chance to discuss with people the differences in kitchen equipment and refrigeration, the differences of quality and what makes a difference in your casework. And it's not just, hey, we want you to spend more money on these things. There is a conversation that says there are some things where it's not worth spending the money on. And you should know what those things are so you're not overspending, so that the dollars that you've allocated in your budget are going to the things that make the most difference for you.
Could you give me an example of maybe something that an area you hear where people are most often under the wrong impression as to how much money they should spend on something?
Well, I think one of the first places people try to cut costs on are refrigerators and freezers and their refrigeration package. And they go, wow, I see this one here, it's $4,500, but this one here is only $1,600, and I'm going to buy that one. Well, that one comes with a 2-year warranty, and you're more than likely going to replace that one 3 times by the time you would have replaced the one at $4,500. And without delving too far into it, just the simple math says in a 7-year span, you'll spend $4,800 just in the cost of buying the cheaper one than if you just spend the $4,500 outright. And on the other side of that penny is things like hand sinks. It's a stainless steel sink. You hang it on the wall. Do you need a 304 14 gauge stainless sink? Absolutely not. That can cost you $350.
You need a sink, you need some running water, you need a drain.
Well, right, it's a hand sink. It sits in there. Get a 430 20 gauge stainless sink to put it up on the wall. They cost $150. That to me is a better use of where your budget dollars can go. And the other thing too is, right, you might buy 2 freezers, but you're probably going to spend money on throughout your location 10 to 15 hand sinks throughout the location. So, right, if you can save through $200 on a hand sink times 15, well, that's some real money.
It's all those little things that add up. Like I know when we were speaking earlier, you said one of the ways that Dine-In is evolving is smaller menus where you use a smaller number of ingredients and really maximize the efficiency of that. Like the menu that's like 10 pages long is starting to become a thing of the past.
But I've been a fan of going, look, 3 to 4 appetizers, 3 salads, 3 to 4 sides, 3 to 4 entrees. That's your menu. You should be able to fit your menu on one page front and back. And the ingredients need to cross utilize, right? If the salad that the lettuce you might put on a burger needs to be the same lettuce you're using in your salad, some of the same dressings and things like that, that you need to be able to cross utilize your ingredients. Offer a chicken sandwich, but don't hesitate to offer to take that same chicken, cut it up, and put it on top of a salad.
Or do like a special menu item, a special cocktail tied to a new release. Keep things nimble, keep things refreshed. Just kind of be on your toes with it, I guess.
Right. If you made it to Dine-In Cinema Summit last year, you heard me talk about limited time offerings or LTO menus. And we gave a panel presentation when we brought in folks from Cinemark. We brought in folks from Alamo, Galaxy. We had a panel to talk to people about when do you start looking at limited time menu items? When do you start putting those things together? What should they be on? How limited should they be? And do they ever make it to your real menu? So when we look at the things that we offer and the educational seminars that we bring into Dine-In Cinema and that summit specifically, I don't know that there's another educational slate that offers more education on a wide array of topics than what we get at Dine-In. Matt and Amy Motter have done such an incredible job putting that show together and starting it from nothing that I'm just amazed every time I look at it every year and go, oh, I'm so happy they let me be a part of it.
I've heard so many great things about that show. And it's not like at a convention center or something like that. You're at these actual cinemas. Gosh, speaking of LTOs, I still think like there's still like cinema specific Alamo menu items that I still think about like 10 years later.
Right? I think when we did a panel last year and we did talk about some of those things, we had input from David Haywood at Cinemark. We had input from Ken Gillich at Reading. We had input from Marty over at AMC. We had input from
They're actual people who are not like they're actually doing that job.
Operating venues, talking about what they do, to people that, right? Like we had Tammy at Spotlight who has 4 locations, who she doesn't have that manpower behind her cinema to get some of those concepts and some of those ideas. And not that she might not be thinking about those things on her own. She's incredibly smart, but to get, right, like 5 out of the top 10 cinemas right there in a room, all opening up in a very open way to say, this is what we're doing, and this is how we're playing things, and this is how we're pulling things together. And these are the resources that we're using, because they're not doing it just in-house. They're using their chefs that come from their food service suppliers. They're leaning on people like Proctor or Snapco to say, hey, what's the new merchandising coming out, and how do we market that, and how do we tie that in with our food and beverage?
Like what are the POS systems that are handling like tip breakdowns and pre-ordering and all of the things on the more digital side of the equation? I mean, there's so many little different parts of it, and a lot of companies working in that space, and they need to be able to work together.
Well, and when you're pre-selling tickets on something so far in advance, you now have time to go, what kind of a menu can we put together for this? How can we get them? If we know that we're able to pre-sell tickets 6 months in advance, let's get a menu created with 5 months to go, right? And then we can start teasing to those people that have pre-sold tickets, pre-bought tickets, particular shows. We can push that information to them through our apps or through our reward or our loyalty programs. When you have some of those people that are in the room, some of those powerhouses, and you get an idea of how they're doing some of these things, it really can help that smaller venue and that smaller theater owner to go, wait, I think I can make this happen too. Right, Craig over at Nexus, who has his own dine-in cinema, he's able to do some things, and quite frankly, he's able to do things easier, right? One location, it's easier to turn that ship than it is to turn that Titanic of AMC to try to implement in something new and see what works. They have a lot more autonomy and they have a lot more flexibility to make these things happen. And I think it works out really well for them if they're just willing to think it through, invest a little bit,
Ask
um,
questions.
right? Tap their resources, find their village, get to their team of who wants to help them.
Over the last 2 years, the Dine-In Cinema Summit has made a concerted effort to open it up to the Cinema Entertainment Center.
Right, that plus FEC at the end of the day now.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're not an FEC, if you're, an independent cinema, or you're just, interested in the concepts, what's something that you can maybe take from what FECs are doing now and apply it to your own theater?
You may want to seriously start to take a look at how much real estate your cinema is taking, what the release schedule looks like over the next couple of years. Can you do it with 5? Do you need to have 6? If you're pretty adamant that you do need to have 6, and we know locations that, right, they're not going to go below that, and it's good for them. Then we look at that lobby space, right? Where can we add things? Can we add an arcade? Can we add a bar? One of the things that I've been telling people over the last couple of years, and it's such an important piece that I can't stress this enough, is there's a term that runs around the family entertainment center and they call it the anchor attraction. People are like, cinema's an anchor, or bowling's an anchor. Your food and beverage is an anchor attraction. I can't tell you enough how many people that I know that if you don't have food and beverage, they won't come see you. And much less some of the people that might come to see you, they're not staying nearly as long because they get hungry and they're not coming back.
Or they're sneaking stuff in and you're losing out that way. Or, I mean, you some of the theaters, I mean, you go to them and you see they have a bar set up and like there's no one there.
It's uninviting, right? So we talk about all those things. Your food and beverage is an anchor attraction. So if you invest money in your anchor attractions, you're putting new seats in, you're updating projectors, update your menu, put in food, look at those things. Change things out that don't work, offer different menu items. A lot of the times when we design a kitchen with equipment that's very versatile, that can cook different types of foods. You can do different things in there. So you can't be afraid of change. But your food and beverage is an anchor attraction. And we talk about this often where they spend on average $20 to $25 more per hour that they stay. And we know that if you're offering food and beverage, they stay 30 to 40% longer than they do if you don't have it.
And that's there.
Well, it's just the way it is.
Michael, I always love talking to you and picking your brain about because it's such an interesting industry.
Well, thank you. It's on the outside, right? It's put some hamburgers, some hot dogs out there, right? It seems like it's a very basic thing. And when you peel back, right, it's an onion. It has layers. It can be very complex at its core. And right, there's plenty of people out there that want to help. Everybody wants you to do well.
And that was Michael Jacinto from Proctor Company speaking with Rebecca Pauley here on the Box Office Podcast. Earlier, you heard from my colleague Chad Kenrick and myself, Daniel Luria, going over the news in exhibition for this week. Don't forget to subscribe, sign up, recommend what we do, and we will be back with a new episode of the Box Office Podcast next weekend.